Today I wanted to talk a little bit about HERS scores. So ever since the UAD 3.6 came out, and I noticed that there was a data element for capturing HERS scores and reporting those, I began to think about that as a potential adjustment factor. Okay, well, so we can report the HERS score, we can report the HERS score for our comps, but then what? What do we do with that information? So what do I do if my subject has a HERS score of 75 and I have a comp that has a HERS score of 65? Well, does that mean I need to adjust? What do I do with that? So it made me think, hey, let's talk a little bit about HERS score, how to analyze it, what to do with it. Ultimately, I've concluded that HERS score is best as an explanatory element rather than a quantitative adjustment in and of itself. And the reason being is correlation. So right now you're looking at a list of data that I was able to download from ResNet. ResNet is where any appraiser can go and get this data set for their location. You can look up a specific property, or you can download a whole data set. This is every property that has a HERS score in Plano, Texas. And so I have this data set. So what do I do with it? Well, ultimately, this can tell me that maybe my property is more or less efficient than the other properties. But what I want to really point out is that there is correlation. So let me show you a different. Let's see. Okay, so this is that same data set, but I correlated the HERS score to the year built. And you can see there is a distinct correlation. There's not a lot of data for older homes because they're not regularly rated, whereas all new homes in Plano are rated and have been for a while. Maybe not all, there could be some exceptions, but there's quite a bit of HERS score data available in Plano for newer properties. And so you can see that even among the newer properties in the data set, if I'm looking between 2010 and current, there's a definite trend toward newer homes having lower HERS scores. So what I want to point out there is that if I'm adjusting for HERS score, well, I'm maybe double adjusting with condition and or age, because newer homes tend to have lower HERS scores. So this is something we really need to pay attention to. And HERS score is correlated with other elements as well. There could be location correlation. So you could have a very similar home in one community and nearly identical, or possibly what would appear to be a completely identical home in a neighboring community where there are different energy efficiency standards, and that could result in a different HERS score. Well, that's also a different location. So if you're studying location A versus location B, you might find a difference there. Well, are you adjusting for that as location, or are you adjusting for that as HERS score? Well, HERS score, because it's correlated with so many other things, condition as well. If you have an older home where, let's say you've got a remodeled older property. Well, maybe they have done the air conditioning, maybe they put in new windows, and all that is going to be impactful in terms of energy efficiency. So that would mean if they had rated the property and you had ratings for the comparables, you're probably going to have a lower HERS score. But you're also really looking at condition differences. So if you're saying, well, I've got a HERS score difference, I need to adjust for that, I'm going to study that, well, you're going to find a price differential along with that HERS score. But are you already adjusting for that price differential in condition? So again, her score as its own quantitative metric has some problems. And so I just wanted to suggest for my appraiser peers that as you are collecting data for this new UAD 3.6, just because there is a data point doesn't necessarily mean that there is an adjustment factor that is best. So adjustments are those which are helpful in the end goal. And our end goal is really a price prediction, the most probable price that is embedded in the definition of market value. And so if a metric like her score is helpful in that regard, then great. If it's not, and most of the time I will submit that I believe her score is going to be so much correlated with other elements that really it's good as an explanatory factor. That yes, my subject has a lower her score than this comp. Well, that's really part of the explanation for the adjustment that I've made for differences in condition between those two properties. And that can be really helpful in order to say, hey, this data point, don't take it in isolation. Let's look at that relative to all the other data points. Same thing could apply for, I've got a quality of construction adjustment between one builder and another builder. Well, if the HERS score is also different between those two, then you can point to that and say, yeah, so this quality of construction adjustment, you can actually see that in the HERS score in this case. So it's an explanatory element. It can be really helpful in that regard, but be careful in terms of, hey, I've got this nice, it's numerical, and it seems like I should be able to, derive a really good adjustment from this. That's tempting to think, but it really is going to be a challenge to separate her score from all the other collinear factors. So if you were trying to model for this in a multiple regression model, you're going to have a lot of problems trying to isolate an actual credible adjustment factor for her score. So keep that in mind as you're working your way through the new UAD 3.6. You're learning about different fields. When you get to the energy efficiency, the green section of the 3.6, then just kind of keep this in mind when you're deciding, hey, what do I do with the HERS score?